Hello, algebra students. This lesson is on simplifying expressions using correct order of operations. Now, if you remember order of operations, the rules, you guys probably remember PEMDAS, okay, which is parentheses, right, then exponents, then I'm going to put multiplication and division. But what you have to understand is what comes first from left to right. Okay, and this is the thing that gets most people. They think you do all the multiplication, then you go back and do the division. That's not the case. You do whatever one comes first from left to right. And the same goes for addition and subtraction. Okay, so, and I'm just going to put an arrow here so we don't have to rewrite it. Now, when we look at some of these, you can approach these a little differently depending on your knowledge of mathematics and order of operations. We will try and keep it simple for all of them. For this one, since we have a fraction here, anytime you have a fraction, the first thing you always evaluate is the numerator, evaluate the denominator, and then divide. So here you would do 2 plus 6, which is 8. 8 divided by 2 gives you 4. Now, this one here, we don't see parentheses, we see exponents. When you evaluate this, you have to be very careful. Now, the negative is not inside the parentheses. Therefore, you have to think of this as -1 times 4 to the second power. Now, we know 4 squared is 16, but -1 times 16 would give you -16. Then, once you evaluate the exponents, now we can go ahead and add the 10. -16 plus 10 is going to be -6. Alright, here we see parentheses. So what we have to do, we see two sets. You have this set and you have this set. You always have to evaluate the innermost first. So we do 3 times the quantity. First thing we do is we do 15 plus 4 plus -2 is 2. Now we do 3 times. We still have to finish the parentheses. 15 plus 2 gives you 17. And then 3 times 17 would give you 51. Okay, number 4 here. A lot of people are going to want to do the 8 minus 5 first, but you can't. You have to work the parentheses and get rid of this multiplication before you can do anything with that 8. So we would bring down the 8 minus 5 times. When we evaluate inside the parentheses, first thing you have to do is a 2 squared. So that's going to be 6 plus 2 to the second power is 4. So now 6 plus 4 gives us 5 times 10. Now again, we said we have to do this multiplication before the subtraction. So 8, -5 times 10 is -50. And 8 minus 50 gives you -42. In number 5, right, first thing you have to do is a parentheses. -6 plus 3 is going to give you -3, and now -2 times -3, +6. And the next one, the absolute value. We have to, this is not a set of parentheses, it's the absolute value bars. And remember, when you take the absolute value of any number, it always makes it positive because it represents the distance from 0 on the number line. So 3 times the absolute value of 2 minus 6 is -4 plus 4. Now, the absolute value of -4 is going to give us +4. Now, 3 times +4 is 12. And then when I go ahead and add the 4, 12 plus 4 is 16. Okay? Those are pretty straightforward. Now, what happens is, we're going to do some substitution. Meaning, we're going to substitute the value of these variables into the expressions, and then we're going to go ahead and use correct order of operations to evaluate them. Now for here, first thing you do is you substitute. The majority of the time, if your number is negative, always substitute using parentheses. So here we would do 2 minus, what are we replacing y with? Negative 6 all over 2. But remember, when we subtract the negative, we bling it to get positive 6. So this numerator really ends up being 2 plus 6, which is 8, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. Okay, it's very important to substitute using parentheses. Now the next one. So in this next problem, we have to go ahead and substitute 4 in for z. So we're going to do negative, but you have to put the 4 in parentheses, squared, plus. Now, this negative y, think of it as the opposite of y. So when we're plugging negative 6 in, it's going to be negative, negative 6, which is going to make it positive 6. Okay? Plus z is 4. And now we can go ahead and simplify. Remember, we said this is like doing negative 1 times 4 squared. And when we do that, that's going to give us negative 16 plus 6 plus 4 in parentheses will give us 10. Negative 16 plus 10 is negative 6. Okay? So now, w, we're going to replace with 3 times negative 2 times, in parentheses, negative 6, plus, we're going to replace w with 3, plus, in parentheses here, we have 4. Now, plus, alright, negative x. If x is 2, when we plug it in, it becomes negative 2. So here, we have to go and do everything in parentheses. Negative 2 times negative 6 is positive 12, plus 3, plus 4 plus negative 2 is 2. Now, in the parentheses, we still have to evaluate using correct order of operations. 12 plus 3 is 15. 15 plus 2 gives me 3 times 17, which gives you 51. Okay? Now, the next one. Sometimes, I'll just evaluate in my head. So when I go to substitute here, I get 2 times 4 minus 5 times, again, the opposite of y is going to give you the opposite of negative 6, which gives you positive 6, plus, we're going to do x squared, so that's going to be 2 squared. But a lot of times I'll evaluate in my head, and I'll say, okay, 2 times 4 is going to give me 8, minus 5 times 6 plus 2 squared is going to give me 4. Now, 8 minus 5 times. Evaluate what's in the parentheses, which is 10. So you get 8 minus 50, which simplifies to negative 42. Okay, the next one, we're substituting 2 in for x. So that's going to give us negative 2 times y is negative 6 plus w is 3. So negative 2 times negative 6 plus 3 is negative 3, which simplifies to positive 6. Next one, w is 3 times the absolute value of x is 2. Then plus negative 6 is the same as minus 6, because y is negative 6, plus 4. Remember, we evaluate what's inside the absolute value. Then we go ahead and take the absolute value of negative 4, which is positive 4. And now we can finish this up. 3 times 4 is 12, and 12 plus 4 is 16. So, go ahead and do the back page on your own. Hopefully it's pretty easy for you. Thank you.